After last week's video, a few of you have questioned the need for the A500 keyboard adapter. Well, you're going to find out why as I progress with my Amiga 1200 setup series. I'm going to test the computer parts and peripherals today, starting with the exact Eyetech Easy Tower which I had back in my college days in the 90s. Now this footage of the Eyetech A1200 tower I had recorded back in early 2023 when I had originally planned to do this series. Please don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe to my channels below, and don't forget to hit that bell icon. So let's begin. We have something quite special here, and this is very special because it's blast from my past, my Amiga past, and quite a big significant one. I've managed to find one. Well, actually I lie. It's not me who found it, it's someone who, I'm not sure who exactly you are, DJ Erol, but you messaged me with a link to eBay saying that, you know, there's one here. And I just pounced on it when I saw it. So thank you so much. Actually, I almost had it earlier when Rich himself found one. This is before, you know, I was here. So he was gonna donate it to the channel. So somehow I ended up here. Anyway, so thank you so much, those of you out there who are trying, who have been trying. I finally got one and I'm absolutely happy because it's just the exact one as I had back then. Now I remember when this arrived, it was a beautiful sunny day, not unlike this one today here. And it was early summer. It was like right at the beginning of summer because I remember I had just done my exams for that college year. And yeah, I remember that morning as well. I'd already done all my exams. I had, you know, time off college, and yeah, and this was arriving that very day. Then I get a phone call from my tutor, and he then says, "Madiha, are you sitting down?" And I was like, "Yes." He goes, "Okay, well, you won't be because you have to come in at 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. today for an exam." I was just like, what? I literally stood up. I was like, what? And he was just like, I'm sorry, it was unorganized on the part of the college. So it's just like a surprise exam, which I'm totally unprepared for, but nonetheless, I did well in it. But it was like one obstacle to feel it kind of just made that little excitement waiting for the tower to arrive through the door a little sweeter. Inside, oh goodness, takes me back. And you know something, the crazy thing is, I used the exact same red screwdriver on the old one as well. So yeah, I've had this like back then, 99, actually even before then. We've had this since I was little. Rich saw this, right? He saw it when it arrived. He came and he saw this. He's like, "This is massive. This is absolutely massive." He goes, "Are you sure it was this big?" I was like, "Yes, I remember it being this big." It's like a server tower converted to an Amiga case. So last week, or last 2 weeks, I had installed the Indivision AGA in this Amiga, as well as an Amiga 1200 keyboard adapter. Because the original one that I had installed was the some USB keyboard adapter, which was here on the U7 IC. But of course, the Indivision AGA had to use that. But then I also wanted to use an external Amiga 500 keyboard. I ended up getting this. Now this Amiga 1200 keyboard adapter has its own little episode, and that was last week's video. If you wish to know more detail about that, I have linked the video in the description below. So as well as the Eyetech Easy Tower, which I'm very excited about, it's the very same one which I had, and I cannot believe I found it again. This, I'm gonna put the components, I'm gonna try and replicate as much as I can my original setup with the original components. But obviously I cannot get it exact, but I can get it close. Now let's start with this thing here. That is, I mean, this is a modern one. It's an IDE buffered interface which you connect your hard drives and CD-ROMs and whatever other IDE devices to. Now I'm very excited about this. I actually have the original. Now I cannot believe I have the exact one, the exact same one. Even says here, the real thing on the PCB itself. What does it say on that side? Individual computers? Really? This is by them? I've never known that who it's actually by, other than Eyetech, who's published. Oh, this is Kastel and Schoenfeld. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. 1997. Wow. I'm gonna have to test that to see if it actually works. I really hope it does, because I'd love this. It's part of my original setup. Now remember how this worked. This connected to the Amiga itself. This was channel 1 as well as this, basically the same thing. And this was channel 2. So channel 1 was your first 2 devices, channel 2 was your second 2 devices. So yeah. So with regards to floppy drives, I have 2 floppy drives here. I will have both of them in. One will be DF0, I used to call it DFO all the time, and the other one DF1. And both will be internal, as I had back then. What I did not have back then was a Gotek drive. Now, the Gotek drive, what I'm going to do with this is actually have it alongside the DFO. I'm going to have them switching, so I can have a switch which flicks between them two, so I can choose whether to have this Gotek as a DFO, DF0, or the floppy drive as a DF0. And I think, if I'm correct, I can do a switch. I can create a switch with the DS0 pin. So it's like the disk select. I'll have to look that up. At first, initially, I was thinking about doing it with just switching the power between them, connecting them both in, and just switching the power between them. If the DSO thing doesn't work, I mean, I know it's a bit of an ugly thing. A friend previously did that one with his, and it worked beautifully. I was thinking of just doing the power thing. So either way, we'll get that working. Now I'm gonna test these. I mean, this already works. I'm gonna test these 2 drives in this. In fact, I'm gonna test all these components today with you in this, and make sure everything works and everything's perfectly fine before I actually commit them to the tower. So the next thing, a zip drive here. Now these I had, now back then I had a PC setup. I mean, I had at one point I had the PC and Amiga both in this Eyetech Amiga case, which is how it was advertised. You can hold both. And I had 2 zip drives, one connected to the PC, one connected to the Amiga. And I remember the days when I used to transfer files from the PC was connected to the internet, of course. 56K modem, before that 33.6. And yeah, I used to download things and then use onto zip, and then cross DOS 7. God, I remember those days. And I remember I used to first use it with a floppy drive. It used to be DIO assigned to that, the PC floppy with 720K. And then once I moved on to zip disks, I could transfer larger files fast. It was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I've got, it was like the best setup for me. Now this old ghost from the attic, it's 250 gigabytes, this one. This is another one which I'm going to install actually. There's a 40 gig one, which I have. It still have these. I've got a few of them from back in the day. And yeah, I think one of them I'm going to install. Now currently in my Amiga 1200, I have nothing at all connected to the IDE buffered interface. And the reason being is because the 1260, the TF1260, has, so with that adapter from the IDE port there, I have an SD card extender with external access here. So I can change the boot device. Now I don't plan to ditch that or anything like this. In fact, I plan to leave that in. The good thing about this is that I can choose whatever else I can do. I can have another install. So the next drive that I'm going to install is actually this, oh yeah, I've got to show the zip disks. I've got quite a few actually. It's a nice Fuji one over there. Anyway. CD-ROM drive. Well, this one's a DVD-ROM drive. Back in the day, I had an LG one just like this. I remember the shape of it, the curved this and the curved button, and the orange light here. Now, they used to hiss like a snake. Every time you reset the Amiga, it used to hiss. I could not find the exact one, and I don't know if, and I think it was a 48-speed CD-ROM only. I remember that. And it was a beautiful drive. It worked absolutely flawless. You know when something is very sturdy and very, like, it just works, and it works really well. It was one of them. I might try something which I didn't try before, is find a CD writer, but I need to find one that's compatible. There is the software which I remember always seeing, Make CD, something like this. So I don't know which drives are compatible with that, but it'd be nice to try, see how, you know, it works on Amiga as well, and I can make CDs on the Amiga. Now the difference is between my Amiga 1200 tower setup back then and the one that I'm creating now is that back then I had a Blizzard PPC 68040 with a B-Vision graphics card. Oh my goodness, it was sweet. And now the PPC side of it, what I could have done is install the OS 4 or 4.1 on that. That would have been, imagine having an OS 4.1 card on that. That would have been absolutely sweet. But I have now the TF1260, which has its own boot thing, and I have the Division AGA. So yeah, this is the difference, and I'm happy with what I have now. So let's start testing this. I mean, I've got this connected so I can start testing the CD-ROM drives. Now, with regards to power, I'd made this PSU, well, put together this PSU with a Meanwhile. But I had actually, I've got a video on this, in the past video. I just put some power ports in it, so that's why I've put this, the IDE here, so that I can actually have it, an external CD-ROM drive, which I did have for a while in my setup. It's just because I've moved around so much that I just took it off, because, you know, I've been using my Amiga in so many places, because, you know, we've been trying to get things right in this house, and yeah, now hopefully we have. Now I'm going to test the drives first before testing the buffered interface, because I want to see if the drives work fine. So this, I have one of my old cover CDs, which I got back in the day. It does and by the sounds of that motor, I think it needs a belt change. Okay, let's sort that out. I've always hated opening these things. It just feels too fiddly. I don't like. You can hear the ball bearings that make it sound like a snake. It doesn't do that. This one. Okay, I'm disconnecting the Amiga first and then trying that, but this is a bit dangerous because that's an infrared laser. Do not want that shining in my eye. Okay, fantastic. That issue sorted. Let's test this. I mean, the good sign is the error that keeps coming up at boot about the IDE device not found did not come up, so I mean, that's a good sign. So let's... There we go. It works beautifully. I remember the first time I set up the drive, I ever had a CD-ROM drive, and it when it first came up like this, I was so excited. Let's first power it up. Maybe if it comes on, that's a good sign. I love the eject on this. Okay, so here I have the two discs. The original one, which is Easy IDE, and then this EID 99. The one which I've used with zip drives and zip disks is this one, and I'll install that first. It doesn't sound good though. That zip drive needs some serious attention. I've got a feeling it needs greasing, and the mortar, I mean, it's a huge mortar sound. Maybe there is a belt in there, I don't know. I need to find out what's going on in here. That is so much dust in there. It's unbelievable amount of dust in there. I've just contact sprayed a few things here, and I probably need to grease that mortar, but I'll put some deoxide in there. Let's see if it makes a difference, at least to that loud buzzing. Yeah, it's come up, it formatted successfully. You know, it had a read-write error the last time, but it's formatted successfully. I can write to it and I can read from it. I just copied a few files to it there. Let's now remember this. It was faster than a floppy drive, but definitely slower than a hard drive. Okay, so these two are fine now. The zip disk, the zip drive could be better, but it works at least. So I do have a second one somewhere. So hopefully, if I find that, I will test that and replace it with a better one. So now I want to test these floppy drives to see if they work. Okay, so let's test the first floppy drive. Okay, good sign so far, it's clicking. Uh-oh, not so nice sound. Oh no, it worked. Okay, let's go inside this drive for a moment. Let's add grease to that worm wheel. Yeah, that's working much better. That sounds beautiful. I've managed to get all my drives here, and the ones which I want to install in the tower. I also found my old Maxtor hard drive, the 40 gigabyte one, which looks absolutely slim and beautiful, at least for the time anyway. So the zip drive, that works. I got that going. I need to grease the worm wheel on this drive. This Gold Star drive, which is from back in the day. It was in my tower, the previous Eyetech tower. And the bottom drive there. So I'm going to put those two in. This one, I'm going to try this, and I want to make sure this Maxtor actually works. I just found it in the attic. Oh, it fires up. I can hear that hard drive sound. Okay, there we go. Maxtor drive. It works. I'm glad to see that. So let's put in a CD. Back then I used to constantly be wanting a slot line, that's why I got it. A friend of mine had a slot drive, and he wasn't very computer savvy or anything like that. But he had a slot drive in his computer, and I was like, I'll swap you. And he was like, okay, fine, as long as it works, it doesn't make a difference. So I did. Yep, that works perfectly. Oh my goodness. I have my drive back. For some reason, for me personally, the modern computing is just not that exciting. Even if you build a computer about, you know, with parts and everything, it's just not exciting as it was back then. There was something a bit more special about it back then, especially an Amiga system. Okay, so just quickly responding to a couple of comments from my video about the keyboard interface here. Now, there was a couple of people who said that unless I'm putting this in the tower, which I am, unless I'm putting this in a tower, adding an external keyboard to the Amiga 1200 is absolutely useless. Well, that's your opinion, that's according to your needs, but then everyone has their own needs. I mean, it makes sense to me, even if I was keeping it in my original case, because I create music for, you know, with my Amiga. Now, there's going to be a lot of things, a lot of synthesizers on my desk, and sometimes I need to kind of have them in front of me as well as the Amiga keyboard. Now, it's nice to have. By the way, with this adapter, you can use both the keyboards simultaneously. You know, they're both connected, and they're both working. So you've got the option of the two. Many a time, I've needed my keyboard right in front of me, but a synthesizer here at the same time. Now, you cannot do that with an Amiga 1200 because there's ports and cables right at the back here, and you cannot put a keypad like this, like a keyboard or a synthesizer or anything like that, directly behind it. You know, you cannot just do this. That is something that I've needed. I mean, yeah, you got this, but that's nothing compared to, you can just like shift it to the side and no problem. So it's accordance with people's needs, but I'm putting this in a tower anyway, so either way, it makes sense to me. I wish to thank all of my patrons for the support. A big thank you goes especially to the following top tier patrons who have gone all out their way with their generosity: Rich Garbett, Axel Dominator, Corey Ostman, Mark Bosak, Monochrome Minago, and Chris Sebelinski. A big thank you and respect goes to each and every one of you who are supporting me and all what I do in some sort of way. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much.